Well, how's it going? I'm Mark Duffy. Welcome to my channel. On today's episode, we're going to be talking all things about strobe lighting made easy. So I got hired by Transcontinental on behalf of Godox Lighting to do a live talk demonstration for the photography show live stream. And the video idea we came up with was to demonstrate strobe lighting made easy, to kind of demystify this. Now, I felt that the tips being shared on this video were too good to just have on a live stream for it to disappear thereafter. So I reached out to Transcontinental and I asked, would you be okay with me sharing this video on my YouTube channel to my subscribers? And they graciously agreed. So here is the video. Enjoy. Well, how's it going? I'm Mark Duffy. Welcome to the live stream brought to you by Godox Lighting and Transcontinental UK. Today I'm going to be talking about strobe lighting made easy. So I'm going to be breaking down how you actually photograph with strobe lighting, because like all of us in the beginning, it's a sea of wonder. You have no idea, like, how do you expose, what do you set, like how do you even know, and is it just guesswork? And I'm going to demystify this whole thing for you right now. Oh, I'm going to be a little bit cheeky too. If you like the video, maybe give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell to get notified. Helps me out. So I'm going to go through and explain it to you on how I understand and how I approach strobe lighting and using strobe lighting. There's a couple of different methods. You know, with a scenario like this here, it's quite easy to use strobe lighting because the lights are going to be controlled 100% by you. But what do you do in an ambient situation? You want to control the ambient lighting. I've lighting on the back. What do you do to keep that in the scene while also using strobe lighting? I'll go through all of this right now in this video, and hopefully this will help you along your way of understanding and using strobe lighting and seeing the benefits actually of maybe investing in some strobe lighting. So the products used in this video are going to be all Godox lighting. I'm using the Godox SL60W right now. I'm also going to be using, for the strobes, I'm going to be using a combination of the 8400 Pro, the 8200 Pro and the MS300s. In this video, I wanted to appeal to everyone, all budgets available, whether it's, you know, for video lighting, whether it's a short budget to get you started into product photography like I started with the MS300, or you're looking to upgrade maybe up to the 8400 or even the 8200, or you need something to go portable and outdoors, again like the 8400 and the 8200. What are the benefits of using strobe lights over, say, video lights, and why wouldn't you use video lights? A lot of people, this is when you're about to venture into actually investing in lights, this is the one thing that every one of us have the same question. I had the same question myself. You know, video lights are WYSIWYGs. You know, what you see is what you get. You set the lighting. Problem is, unless you have a dark studio, everything is involved. All lighting is involved. So that's one of the issues. As well as that, you're going to have a lot of light output out of them video lights to be able to achieve half of what a strobe light can achieve. The strobe lights, that's the greatest thing about them. They have so much power. Boom, boom. It's there. It's in a flash. It's in a flash. And that's one of the issues with strobe lighting. It flashes so fast that it doesn't actually constrict your subject's pupil, and you get this kind of Bambi eye syndrome. And when you get into headshot photography, it's really not, when you see it, it's one of those things that's kind of like, oh, I don't really like that. Maybe how do I get around that? So you just need to be in a well-lit room, and that's where another benefit of strobe lighting is. You can overcome any lighting situation. You can darken the lighting in a room that it's totally dark, and what you set your strobes to is how the lighting will end up being in your final shot. So let's talk headshots, as that's primarily what I shoot as a commercial photographer. And when I go to visit companies and I'm shooting a lot of groups, you know, I could be shooting 20, 40, 50 staff in a day, you know, the great thing with strobe lighting is I can be set up in a boardroom that has horrible fluorescent lights, and it's not going to affect my shot because I can overpower it with the strobes. I used to use the video lights to constrict their pupils and make their eyes really pop, but I just found lately that if you're in a bright enough room within their building, they usually do have, boardrooms are usually pretty bright, so open the windows and use your strobe lighting to get as much lighting into that room. I will still bring the video light, but as you can see in this example here, where I have my front sitting room, I have a 10-foot window there. Now, I don't necessarily want to be showing my neighbors when I'm photographing myself or something like that. So the window also faces east, so if it's early in the morning, I could have direct sunlight coming in, especially in the summer. So that's, none of them situations are ideal. So pull the blinds so the neighbours can't see, and go and actually turn on the SL60W that I have just a little bit off screen at the minute, and that's going to just fire straight up into the ceiling and just bounce around the ceiling and illuminate the whole room, and it's going to be bright enough to actually constrict my pupils. So the settings you're going to need are 1/250th of a second, f6.3 just for a nice fall off on your depth of field, and a nice low ISO. I just went with ISO 100, and that's going to darken your scene and make sure that you can't see anything at all. So your screen should be black or close to black in this case. Now there's enough light in the room that it will still pick you up or pick your subject up, and your autofocus will work perfectly, and that's exactly what you want. Control the lighting and still have decent autofocus. Now to be able to see your subject, then you need to go into your menus and find where it says the live exposure preview and turn it off. On the Sony, I have it set to custom button C3, but I also noticed a thing with the controller that I'm using, the X Pro. When you turn it on a Sony camera, it disables the preview anyway, so you preview it. So that's a great thing. That doesn't happen on Fuji, but it happens on Sony, that as soon as you turn on your Godox controller, it disables the live preview effect, so you can see what you're shooting. So once you have your settings dialed in, now it's time to go into the mystery that is strobe lighting. How do you shoot strobes? What do you do? The one trick that I will tell you right now is set your lights to 1/16 power. It's right in the middle. It's the happy guesstimate, I call it. And it's just, if you don't know what else to do, 1/16 power, try it. If it's not enough, increase it. If it's too much, decrease it. Simple as. That's it. There's nothing else. There's no other lighting tricks you need to know. And this is the biggest lighting trick that I can tell you. If I'm at events and I'm using speed lights, 1/16 power, look at the ambient lighting, boom. And that's exactly what I do the whole time. 1/16 power, it's quite there. And a lot of times you will find that that's what you're going to use anyway. And that's the same for all of the lighting. And you're better off going through each of the lights one at a time to see what each and every one of them is doing in that scenario. So then you can really fine tune it. Once you have the settings down, it's just a case of getting your subject and getting them to pose properly. And then it's all about, for headshots, it's all about that facial expression, getting the head in the right position, boom. And my last tip for headshot photography as well, if you're a person like me who has a late sleep pattern, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I can't get sleep, but I might be up at 9 o'clock in the morning. I suffer really bad with Tesco bags under my eyes. So to hide that, I don't have space now. I have my microphone right here, so I can't do it in this scenario. But you'll see in this example when I was doing my headshots, the transformation that you'll see if we show a before and after of this, the addition of a reflector or a second light. If you want to bring another light in underneath, you can bring a reflector in under the chin of your subject, and that will uplight into their face and just level out these dirty shadows that you'll get on the face, some of the imperfections that your subject's going to want to hide anyway. And also, if you find that you are shooting and you like the position of the key light, but it's a little strong, you don't have another light, then simply just get a white card. You can get these from any kind of art supply shops and just bring it in as a bounce card. You can have your subject, like I am right now, holding it up, and you'll see the difference before and after of how it will actually fill in the light to your subject's face. Now I go into greater detail on this subject on how to maximize your budget-friendly lighting setup on my YouTube channel. It goes through everything that you need to know, from lighting positions to using bounce cards and fill cards, and everything that I'm mentioning here plus more is mentioned on that video. So what do you do when it comes to shooting outdoors? I had a brief 5-minute window of half decent weather one evening with my brother, so I took him out to do some headshots outdoors. What I did for this shoot was I was using the 80-400 Pro, and that was going to be my key light. The sun was going to be my kicker. That's going to give me the color, and it's going to be the kicker, the hair light on his head. So what you do first of all is set the ambient lighting, the sun. You want to control that before you even look at your other light. So set the scene, set the exposure to what you want, darken the sky, you know. And now I wanted to challenge myself as well. I wanted to set it at 1/250th of a second. If you have lights that can't, so if you're using even speed lights or something like there that can't go over the 1/250th of a second, I left the challenge there for me. So I had 1/250th of a second, and then I just increased the aperture and decreased the ISO till I got to a point where I was happy with the scene, with how I was happy with the actual sun in the background. Then after that, and you'll see in some of these examples, I would bring in the light and it wouldn't be bright enough. Then I'd bring it in and it's too bright. And it's just a case of just, you know, changing it. You don't have to touch the light. You have all of that control on the X Pro controller or whatever Godox controller you're using. It's on the camera. Change it. Boom. Change it. Boom. And then once you get the settings, you just work on poses, you just work on facial expressions, change the angle. Now you're facing directly into the sun. It's a little bit more powerful. It's after coming out of the clouds. So change your exposure again for the back of the scene, for your ambient lighting, then look after it. So it's always ambient first, strobe light second. And that goes for everything. If you're doing event photography and you're shooting wedding bands like here, ambient lighting first, then your key light. When I'm doing this, I never really think of the key light as being the key light. So it's the key thing. It's the most important thing. I actually find the ambient lighting is the most important. So the key light, when you're using strobes like in events and outdoors, it's actually not a key light anymore. It's a fill light. The ambient lighting is your most important. Then you bring in your fill and you just bring the fill up until it's balanced. Boom. And that's what you do. And that just gets rid of it. So it doesn't matter what settings it needs to be. If it needs to go up to half power, you put it to half power. If it only needs to go to 1/16 power, you only put it to 1/16 power. So it's not about like, what do I do? If I'm in a sunny scene, what do I do? Like if you're in your scene and you want to get that sun into the sunburst, I know what the settings to tell you there. F14. It doesn't matter about the ISO. It doesn't matter about the shutter speed. Just get to F14. Set your ISO, set your shutter speed to whatever it needs to be. The same goes for your strobe lighting. Set the strobe lighting to whatever it needs to be, and you will only know that when you're there on the scene. I can't tell you, every sunset's different. Every sunny day is different. It's all about being flexible with the environment you're in. To demonstrate this point of the importance of setting your ambient lighting, I'm going to take the controller from my key light, my SL60W. I'm going to turn it off. And then we're going to bring it back in again, and I'm going to show you. So you can see I've set the scene. Like over here isn't overexposed. There's nothing in the background overexposed, and it's to the level that I want. So then you bring in your key light, and you find, like, say, if you turn it down, it's the great thing of this remote control. We're going to turn it down right now. So it's a bit slow. There we are, 25%. It's underexposed. What am I at? I'm at -1 exposure. It's kind of exposing from my face. So say we go for 100%. We're going to try and get this up to 100%, and you'll show it. It's going to be overexposed now. Okay, so we have this now at 100%. And if you really, really, really wanted this at 100%, then you just darken the background. I have a grid on this, so it only affects me. It's not lighting the background, but I like how bright the background is. So I want to keep that. So we go to the next thing that's not as important, and that's the key light. Bring it down. And it's all about balance. And there we have it. 75% on the SL60 watt. My settings are 1/60th of a second because this is 30 frames a second. F28, ISO 250. So we got it to the level we want. Nice clean ISO, nice and low-ish. And you just bring your light to whatever you need. Now, if it was a case that I wanted this really bright light, then maybe the aperture would be what I'd use, or I'd lower the ISO first and then increase the aperture further. But that's exactly the way you should be approaching it. Set your scene first of all, and then fill in with your key light. And the last thing I want to talk about is the question on high shutter speed versus flash duration. So you'll see a lot of this on Instagram, this trick that everyone says where you're using high speed sync and you can use up to 1/4000 of a second or 1/8000 of a second on your shutter speed on your camera to freeze the action while using strobes or speed lights. But I actually find that you don't need to go to that extent, not at all. I've done splash photography in the past and I've used 1/200 of a second. I've done live events photographing bands and drummers, and I'm trying to light it perfectly without having too high of an ISO on my Fuji camera at the time. And I'm shooting at 1/50th of a second. I'm shooting at 1/25th of a second. I'm shooting at 1/125th of a second. Like, they're not fast enough to be freezing the action. What's freezing the action is the light. And you'll see here on the 8400, this is one of the great things about it. As you change the settings, it will tell you what flash duration it is able to do at that one setting. And I think that's an absolute fantastic feature. Now, to explain what flash duration is the speed that the flash actually flashes at. So the speed that the light goes on and off is the flash duration. So if you understand shutter speed, then this should be really easy to understand as well. So in the same kind of theory as shutter speed, it's a speed that the shutter opens and closes and lets light in. This is how fast the flash will actually fire on and off. And the faster it flashes, the more action you can freeze. I'm going to demonstrate this right now. I'm going to use the Myops Smart Plus trigger on my camera, and I'm going to set it to sound, and I'm going to go on the drum kit right now behind me, and I'm going to record myself playing the drums. The MyOps trigger is going to fire the camera on sound, going to hit the snare drum nice and hard, and this is going to be quite fast, and I'm also going to challenge myself to shoot this at 1/50th of a second. So this drumstick should be blurry. You shouldn't see my hand. You definitely should see a trail. But I'm going to be setting the 8400 Pro at its lowest setting at 1/256th power, giving me over 1/12,000th of a second flash duration. That's much faster than your camera can achieve. By doing this, it means I can keep my ISO down low while having my aperture quite deep. This could be a promo shot that you're doing for a musician who's an endorsee for a drum kit. They're going to want to see the drummer's face as well as the drum company's name. And shooting at f2.8 is not going to achieve this. So a deeper aperture is needed. So you don't want to be reaching up into ISO 6000 to get your fast shutter speed. Use a smaller powered strobe with a faster flash duration, and you achieve everything, and everyone's happy, everyone goes home great, you get a great shot. So I'm going to show you this right now and enjoy. We interrupt your broadcast for this important announcement. You're going to see the next clip and you're going to say to yourself, Mark, you mounted that MyOps trigger like a donkey. And I know, I did, I really did. The problem is I have this cable here, which was for my Fuji camera, and I figured, yeah, it's the same connection, micro USB, I'll just use this. No, it's a completely different cable you need. It's the same kind of head. It's the same shaped head, but it's a different. So I had a tiny, insignificant little cable, and you're going to see it. It is. I have it mounted like a donkey. So just bear with me. This is literally the video that went live on Photography Show. I could have reshot it. I probably will reshoot it for some reels for my Instagram page, but I'm not going to do it right now. So enough talking. I did go and buy an actual cable, an actual MyOps cable, so it's all sorted now, but you may not notice where the trigger is because, like I said already, I mounted it like a donkey. Back to the drumming. So there you have it, strobe lighting made easy. I hope that's demystified some of the questions you may have had on strobe lighting. I know that I had a lot of these questions in the beginning, found it hard to find the right information to tell me what's what, and like the best tip I can tell you is set your strobe light to 1/16th power and test it and do a guesstimate. From there you can only go up in power or go down in power, but you will have a good basis in the beginning. It's right there in the middle, I think. Just want to give a big thanks to Godox Lighting and Transcontinental for inviting me onto this to speak with you and share some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. Like I said before, I'm self-trained at all of this. I learned off YouTube, so I try to share as much information that I have learned with others because I know what it's like to go on to Google and have no idea what you're searching for to answer the questions that you have no idea what the answers are for. So speaking of questions, speaking of answers, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something from this. If you did like the video, give it a thumbs up. Maybe subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell to get notified for when I post up a new video. And if you have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the comments or contact me on Instagram. Don't forget, every Tuesday on Instagram on my stories, I do a Duffers Tuesday Tips. You can find me everywhere on social media under Mark Duffy Photography. And until the next time, later Gators.